Well, hello there. We are bringing in the new year with a very tasty episode, one would say. And that's because today's guest is Chad Steele. He is the founder and owner of Norfolk Barbecue, who took a 14-year passion in barbecue and turned it into a very small, successful business right at the beginning of COVID. Now in over 80 stores around Ontario, his sauces and spice rubs use ingredients from farms right here in Norfolk County. I've known Chad for about 5 years now because we both started a business at the beginning of COVID pretty much at the exact same time. And ironically, we are always beside each other at trade shows and other events like that. And I know I'm a little biased, but it is. His barbecue sauce, any of the barbecue sauces, but especially the original one, is by far the best barbecue sauce I've ever had. And if you haven't tried it, you need to go. You need to go do that. Anyways, and we even try a new unreleased spice rub. It might be out by now, but when we recorded this, it was brand new. Anyways, here is Chad Steele.
Hey you, you're listening to Just Drew, Just Drew, Just Drew.
Yeah. What do you think of the drink?
Yeah, it's nice.
Not
yeah,
bad,
absolutely.
eh?
Yeah, no.
I wasn't sure how weird it would be to mix a barbecue sauce with whiskey, because like you know what, your barbecue sauce would be good in a Caesar.
Yes, I've had people tell me that they put some more like vinaigrette in it or like vinegar in it, and they just kind of like make it up,
drop it in there,
and do that. So,
but this isn't bad.
Yeah, I always joke with people. I'm like, hey, you know what? We don't judge here. Like, you can use barbecue sauce however you want. Like, you know, because I've had one time, because it's always fascinating to see how like people enjoy the barbecue sauce and how they use it, because sometimes they think of it, they do things in like ways you would have never thought about using the sauce. So like the one time I was at an event and these people came up to me and they're like, you know how I use the apple butter sauce? And I'm like, please, there's children here. Please just keep it PG, right? And they're like, no. So like we take the radical apple and we take it and we use it on baked brie.
Oh.
So they cut the brie open. And they put some crushed nuts inside it, and then they put the radical apple in there, and then they put it back together, and they have like a little one of those little brie bowls that you can bake it up in, and they bake it up in there, and they're like it's amazing.
Oh hell yeah!
And I was like, you know what? That's a fantastic idea.
Yeah.
And I was like, I tried it, and I'm like, if you make that, people will continuously invite you to their Christmas parties. Like, you will be. Yeah. And it was like, it's delicious, because I thought, why didn't I think of that? Because like apple and cheese kind of go nice together, right? And
they always like, there's like that sort of like grilled cheese sandwich, or like like paninis. They always do sliced apple sometimes in the sandwich, and it kind of goes with the cheese.
Yeah.
So
I've done that before with like the radical apple one. I've taken like a grilled cheese pulled pork sandwich and done it that way.
Yeah.
Put the radical apple in there, and then that's
for those listening and that don't know the product. Do you want to just like, what is the radical apple?
Yeah. So this is Norfolk Barbecue, and we make barbecue sauces and spice rubs using ingredients from farms here in Norfolk County.
Yeah.
So that's what we do.
Yeah.
And so that one we use like apple butter, apple cider vinegar. So it's got a really nice apple flavor, and so it's really nice on like pork and chicken and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
You want to know my favorite way to eat your like original sauce? I walk to the fridge sometimes and I just put it on a spoon.
I've had people do that.
It.
Yeah, I've had ladies come up to me and tell me that. And
I can't help myself.
Yeah, and
I'll open the fridge and I see it. I'm like, just a little spoonful.
No, and I'm like, hey, you know what? I don't judge, man. Like, you know, and I've had a couple ladies when I first started there. She was like, it's like, this stuff is delicious. I eat it with a spoon, and I'm like, hey, you know what? You eat it however you want to eat it.
Well, like, I know you and me know each other, and like we both are very, proud Norfolk people, but like, if I didn't know you and if I didn't live here, it would still be my favorite barbecue sauce. Yeah. Like, hands down. I haven't found one that is better.
Yeah. No. Well, thank you very much for that. But no, because we're in over 80 stores around the province now.
That's crazy, man.
So, and it's wild, right? Because like we kind of started, I think the folk stuff started it started around the same time during the COVID. And kind of, so how we started was, I mean, I've been barbecuing for like I don't know, 14 or 15 years. Like I've done it for a huge part, and I love it.
Yeah.
And so during the COVID, the lockdowns, like my other business was we made orthopedic like foot orthotics for medical clinics, and they shut all the medical clinics down. Right, it was only like essential services.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. Like, you can only, and I always joke with my wife, I was like, you can only do so many renovations on the house before your wife is like, stop tearing down walls. And so Jen over at the Barntique, she put out a call for sauces and rubs. And so I made up a batch of the original sauce. And I was like, do you like this? Would you sell this? And her husband, he's hilarious. He came in and he just cracked it open and like started sticking his finger in it. And he's like, oh yeah, this is really good, Jen. You get to sell this. And so that's how it kind of started.
Were you making that sauce prior to that?
Yeah. Yeah. So when I started doing barbecue, like there was nothing in Canada. Like there was absolutely nothing. Like today you can walk into any like, you know, you can walk into Lowe's or Rona or like Home Hardware, and they've like Traeger, all the pellet smokers and all that stuff. Right. I mean, when I started like 15, 16 years ago, like there was nothing. And I mean, you had to search out like smokers and like go online and order stuff or build one or go on like Amazon. And so I originally bought like a Weber Smoky Mountain. It's like it's shaped like a bullet. It's like a big cylinder. So that's how I started doing it on there. And so now I have like 4 or 5 smokers, and my wife keeps telling me like,
4 or 5.
She's like, stop buying smokers, you know?
That's what you do though.
Yeah. So I mean, I love it. And, I mean, I had that one, and then I graduated up to like a stick burner, which is like, because at that point they still really didn't have Traegers in Canada, like pellet grills or anything. So I bought like an Oklahoma Joe one that you put like charcoal and stuff and put pieces of wood inside of it. And, then I was smoking on that. And then, I have like a big like 8.5 foot, 9 foot smoker that's like made out of like 1/4 inch plate steel, and the thing weighs like 1,500 pounds.
Do you move that thing around, or is it stay?
It's on casters, so you can move it around. Like I've taken it out to some events that I've done around the county, like but I built like a giant pavilion on my backyard that basically houses it. It's like 10 by 20. Oh and God. It's made out of like 6 by 6 beams and everything. And I had to build it all. Like we poured the concrete pad and built it all because the ones that they sell at like the hardware stores, they weren't big enough because I couldn't they weren't tall enough because I couldn't roll the smoker underneath them.
Okay.
So I was like, well, even if I buy those ones, I'm going to have to put it up on stilts anyways, like on like cinder blocks. I'm like, that's not going to fly because it's the first gust wind is going to blow it over. Yeah. So I just built one, and that was fun. So
hell yeah,
it was.
My uncle used to do like a block party, and he would always roast a whole pig.
Yeah, that's great.
Just cut in half.
Yep.
And then they must have built the smoker because like most commercial smokers aren't going to fit a whole pig.
No, yeah, you can like they usually down in the South, and that's kind of the fascinating thing with barbecue is like there's so many in the States, there's so many regional variations. Like there's Carolina whole hog, and then like there's Tennessee and Memphis style barbecue, and then there's Kansas City style, and there's like Texas style, and so there's all sorts of different regional variations on it.
Yeah.
So it's like you can.
How does it change? Like what's the difference between Texas and let's say Kansas City?
Yeah, so like barbecue, like is all places around the world have different what their interpretation of barbecue is, right? Yeah. Barbecue is basically just like
Korean barbecue.
There's Korean barbecue, right? Yeah. So all basically barbecue is like meat cooked over indirect heat using like heat and smoke.
Yeah.
Right.
Slow,
right? Now some like grilling, people think like their natural gas, their propane barbecue that's a grill, right? Because you're cooking that steak over direct heat.
It's right.
Yeah, exactly. So but like that's grilling, whereas smoking is it's like indirect. So you're basically like my big smoker there's a firebox that I have coals in that I put like actual wood in, and it creates a fire, and then that travels through the smoke chamber where the meat is, and then it goes out the smokestack. So it's basically like convection heat.
Yeah, so it's not touching actual flame ever.
It's not touching the flame or the heat ever. So it's like and so the hot air and the smoke is going over the meat and cooking it that way. So basically the smoker is a giant convection oven in a sense.
Yeah.
So there's all these different styles because the American style barbecue is a kind of a convergence of like all these different cultures that came together in the States. Like you had the influence of the Anglo-Saxon European settlers who were coming into the country, and then you had the native populations. They cooked a certain way, and then you had like with the slavery and like the African slaves brought over certain styles of cooking with like spices and stuff like that. And so like the Europeans used a lot of vinegars and mustards and stuff like that. So that's where you find that in the Carolinas. Like a lot of the English and a lot of the Scottish immigrants, they used like a lot of like mustard and vinegars and stuff in there.
When I used to work in kitchens, that's like the main ingredient for roast beef. You rub it in a mustard.
Yeah, so that was
why?
Yeah, so that was because that was like in Normandy and France and in England, they like English mustard, right, or French mustard in Dijon, right. So like in France and in England and in Ireland and stuff like that, they use a lot of vinegars, a lot of mustards in their cooking. So that kind of influence with like all these different convergence of all these different cultures kind of came together to create this style of American barbecue that I guess is the most popular style, right?
Yeah.
So that's why like in the Carolinas you have like the whole hog barbecue down there because like pigs were plentiful and cheap, and
they're known for that.
They're known for that, right? So and then like Kansas City style barbecue is like tomato based, and it's based off kind of like Kansas City was a huge transportation center for like the beef market, right? So that's where you have like Kansas City burn ends and all this stuff, and because of like the whole influence by like all of their sauces are like tomato based, because it was all like German immigrants with like ketchups and mustards and stuff like that as well. So that's where you kind of get that influence of like the industrial beef industry in the U.S.
Okay.
Because it was a big train transportation hub there, right? So they had a lot of beef there. So that's why they use a lot of beef in Kansas City.
Oh, so like more beef barbecue, and then North Carolina. The Carolinas are more kind of whole hog
and pig
pork,
and stuff like
pork.
that, right? Because that's what it was down there. And then in Texas is influenced by like the German Czech immigrants.
Okay.
So that's why you have a lot of that's why Texas style barbecue is a lot of salt and pepper and rubs, like all the it's salt and pepper everything down there. Like that's why all their barbecue and all their briskets and all this stuff, it's all salt and pepper and like dill pickle, like potato salads and all this kind of stuff. And sausages are huge down in Texas because it's all that German influence of like sausage making and salt and pepper and coriander and like and those kind of spices.
Yeah.
So you have all these different influences based on who is there. And then there's also regional inside like the Carolinas. There's some places where all their barbecue sauces and their barbecue style is mustard based, and then depending on which part of the state you're in, it could be like a vinegar style barbecue sauce. So if you were to go to a barbecue restaurant in certain part of the Carolinas, it would be vinegar based barbecue sauces. So they would all be like, you wouldn't have like a tomato based sauce. It would all be vinegar based.
Okay.
And then some places, and then you have like dry barbecue versus wet ribs. And that one is simply like sauced. So like a Memphis style dry ribs they're not sauced. They're influenced by actually a Greek immigrant that came to Memphis and Nashville, and I think his name was Charlie Vargas or Virgo, and it was like he created this rendezvous restaurant, and what he did was he cooked his ribs hot and fast, and he used like Greek spices like oregano and thyme and stuff in the rub. So so there's no the ribs they're not technically sauced.
Okay.
So they put like this dry rub on the ribs.
Are they tougher if they're cooking it faster?
Not necessarily if you do it in the right way. Like, but so there's also these kind of cultural influences that kind of create this really neat stuff.
Beautiful cuisine.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And then the other neat one is down in Alabama. They have the Alabama white sauce.
Yes.
So that one is kind
I know all about that.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And so that one is basically mayonnaise based.
Okay.
So the white sauce is basically just mayonnaise with vinegar in it and some other spices and stuff. And so they would do like chicken.
Fried chicken
and they would dip the chicken sauce in that.
And usually has like a bit of a kick to it, does it?
Sometimes some places put like a
like a cayenne,
cayenne
or something?
and stuff like that, or like horseradish,
a little bit of a zing.
A little bit of a zing in it. So
yeah.
So there's really all sorts of different cultural influences and regional influences for the barbecue stuff. So it's really, really neat. And that's kind of the thing that I love, that always drew me to barbecue, was just like the history of it. And Mike Mills, who is a famous barbecue pit master, I always said like barbecue is a culture, not a concept, because you have to really love barbecue. It has to be a passion to do it, because it takes so long to cook it. Like you just can't. It's not like grilling a steak or making.
You can't go home from work and make a quick brisket.
Yeah, no, it takes like
the weekend.
Yeah, right. So it has to be something that you love, that you're passionate about, because it's a type of cooking style that takes a long time, and if you don't have a passion or a love for it, and then it's just not something that's it's not like grilling a hamburger or steak. It requires a lot of dedication and a lot of tending that, so yeah. I mean,
can you pull that mic just a touch closer?
Sure.
Here, I'll do it for you. That way it's not plugged in your face.
There we go.
That's okay.
Is that better?
You can move it all around.
Yeah. I feel like Ricky Bobby. I'm like, I don't know what to do with my hands. I don't know.
If you ain't first, you're last.
Yeah.
So what was do you remember your first experience with barbecue? Like what, why barbecue?
I think the thing that really drew me to it was like the smoke and the fire, because I thought it was a really cool way of cooking.
A little flashy. You can smell it from a mile away.
Yeah, and I think it's also very primal, because it's very, people have been cooking over fire and smoke for thousands of years, right? So it's just that way. It's just been really cool, and I saw it on like an American TV show that I was watching, like one of the morning shows one day. I was like, before I went to work, and I was like, wow, that is really cool. And I don't know if I should.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on there. Could be my board. Sorry about that.
But and so that's how I saw it, and I was like, I want to get that. So then I searched it out, and went from there and did that. And so it's just kind of like trying it. And the first rack of ribs I did was awful. Like it was just terrible. And it was just like, because a lot of it is, in order to make, it's a lot easier now with like the pellet grills, because I always call them like, it's like a Velcro. They're like Velcro shoes. Like it's, it doesn't require any skill. Yeah. Right. You just basically set the temperature and push the button, right?
Yeah. There's no stoking.
No, there's no, you're right. You basically fill the hopper with pellets, you set the temperature, and you press the button and it goes, right? But I mean, some of the other, like that's also what drew me to it as well, is like, it's not necessarily the destination, it's the journey. So when you're barbecuing and you're tending the smoker, like there's a lot of time to kind of sit there and like contemplate the world and like philosophize and like think about things, right? And that's kind of like the fun thing I like about it is you can just sit there and you can like just enjoy the day, just being outside, drink a beer,
enjoy the sunlight, hang out with a buddy.
Yeah. And especially on some of like the long cooks, like when I've done like briskets, you do briskets overnight, and especially on like the wood fired, on the stick burner they call it, because you're using the wood. That one you have to be up all night. So it's like you start cooking at like 11:30 and you're all night, and it's like 5 a.m. and it's done.
Wow.
And you take it off and you rest it, or 6 a.m, right?
So you're not even like going for a nap. You're just
you're up all night, right? And so you're hearing like, the raccoons and all the stuff, and you're sitting there looking at the stars and just enjoying the night. It's more fun in the summertime, not so much in the wintertime, but but it's really cool that way, just kind of like, and it's just it's also how you do the fire, like how you burn it, and it's a focus on like doing a clean, especially with the stick burner. You have to really get in there, and like you have to get good airflow going into the wood.
Yeah.
So you want a clean burn, and that's what gives it that's what gives really good barbecue, like a really nice flavor.
Just Drew.
Hey, quick break. This space right here could be your business. Every week, the Just True podcast reaches people here in Norfolk County and beyond. A loyal audience of creators, thinkers, and doers. Maybe it's a product or your brand in general, or even an event that you can advertise right here in the middle of the show. Let's get your message out to a community that actually listens. Plus, you're not only advertising, but you're sponsoring the podcast, which I love doing, and I hope you also like listening to. Just send me a message today on social media, and we can set that up. Now, back to the podcast.
I remember. I assume you watch like the Chef's Table's Pitmaster series on Netflix. Maybe.
I've never seen that one. No.
Ooh, there's a whole series on just barbecue.
Oh, okay, yeah.
By the series Chef's Table, They do a bunch of stuff. But I remember this one guy talking about how it's sort of like a dance and how the fire is sort of alive. It's like its own thing.
Yep.
And so you just sort of have to dance with it and attend to it, and it can affect the entire thing you're cooking if you don't dance with it properly.
Yeah. Well, that's the big thing is when you're cooking, you get into a rhythm because and when you get really used to it, you understand like, okay, this split of wood is going to give me like 25 minutes, and you constantly work on that kind of like rhythm and balance of how you arrange the wood in the smoker to kind of get the best airflow around the wood, so it burns the best, it burns the most efficient, and so then you're working the wood and you're getting in that rhythm, and it's constantly like every 15 or 20 minutes, and then you're also like going up and like smelling the smoke that's coming out of the smoker because you want it to smell a certain way, like it should smell like it's like a sweet smoke coming out of it.
Okay.
Because when you're burning it cleanly, there shouldn't be any black smoke. It should almost be like a white or a blue smoke coming out of the smoker. That you shouldn't see any black smoke. Like
what makes black smoke? How do you avoid it?
Black smoke is creosote. So that's an imperfect burn. It's not a good combustion.
Okay.
And so that creates like a bitter flavor. Like the creosote has a bitter flavor. So what you're trying to achieve is that kind of like blue, almost invisible smoke, because what that does is it there's all sorts of like the chemical compounds in the wood that break down, and one of them is like called lignin, and there's all these really neat flavor compounds that are broken down when you have a really good burn, and it burns the creosote and it gets rid of it, and then you have these really unique flavors. So it's almost like a vanilla, nutty, buttery kind of flavor that is imparted in the meat when you have this really nice burn of the wood. And some people talk about like, I use like oak or I use hickory and all this stuff. And I'm like,
that was my next question.
People always ask me like, what's the best wood to burn? And I'm like, it doesn't really matter. Like as long as
bad wood to burn?
There are bad woods.
Maybe not pine.
You would never do pine. You'd never do pine because that has like resin and tar in it.
Yeah.
And so what the best woods to use for smoking is like hardwoods. So like anything that I always tell people, anything that has a nut to it.
Oh, so like a walnut?
Walnut is not good.
Okay.
But
not that one.
But not that one. But like hickory or anything that produces a nut or a seed.
Like a cherry tree.
Cherry trees are really nice.
Ooh.
Cherry, peach, apple, oak, hickory, maple are all good.
Okay.
But you want walnut has chemicals in it that are not.
To it, yeah.
There's like chemicals in it that are like poisonous.
Oh.
That you would want to cook with.
Yep.
Like ash is good too. And then but with pine you don't want to do pine because there's like the resins and the tars and stuff in it that are kind of toxic.
Your meat might taste like a Christmas tree.
It could possibly taste like a Christmas tree, but but I mean, hardwoods are great because I use oak. A lot of times I'll use like oak or a hickory, or a combination is always good. You can use a blend.
Yeah.
But then there's also a super fine art when you really get down into the weeds, you can like, when you first start the cook, you can start it at a dirtier smoke because that imparts some flavor. So you don't want it like dirty all the time, but if you run it a bit dirty at the beginning, it kind of imparts a bit more of a smoky flavor. And then as you get into the cook, like you can raise and lower the temperatures, and like there's certain times of the cook when it's like, hey, you know what, let's push it, and like let's raise the temperature in the cook chamber. And then you also have to know like your smoker and like what type of smoker you're using, and you have to really understand it. And there's like hot spots and cold spots in the smoker. So like my big, huge, like 8.5 foot one, there's hot spots and cold spots. So if you're doing like let's say you're doing like 4 briskets on it, there's areas in the smoker that are colder and areas that are hotter. So like you rotate them so that, and you move them around so that each one of them gets the right amount of heat.
You're doing the dance.
You're doing the dance. It's a real process. It's
Yeah.
not, it's not just like throwing a roast in the oven and like, 3 hours later it's done.
Yeah.
There's a real like process that's involved in barbecue, and especially with like a stick burner, that you're tending the fire, you're checking the meat, you're rotating every once in a while, you're rotating it, then you're checking the smoke to see if it's running good.
Why is it called a stick burner?
Just because it's like a southern thing. They just because you're using wood in it, right?
Right, not pellets or
not
anything.
pellets or anything. So if somebody's talking about like I use a stick burner, they're using like it's like a offset with a firebox inside of it.
Okay.
So it's
Old school.
It's old school, yeah. Because that one originally kind of came from Texas in the oil fields, where like they would use like the 1,000-gallon propane tanks.
Yeah.
And they would kind of weld them together.
Yeah.
And that's how they made them like that. Because those big ones are all made out of like 1/4-inch plate or thicker, and that thick metal, it's like a cast iron skillet. Like once a cast iron skillet is hot, it's hot. It retains its heat. So those big smokers, once you get them up to temperature and the metal in it is warm, like they stay warmer.
Yeah,
because
they just radiate.
Yeah, because they're made out of that thick steel, whereas like the pellet smokers are made out of like maybe like 1/8 of an inch or less of like just like super thin metal, right? So they don't really hold the temperature very well. Mm-hmm. So that's the difference on them. So,
Okay. Okay.
But yeah.
Is there obviously I know you stick probably with more traditional, but is there a good like commercial smoker that you would recommend?
Yeah, I mean, like there's a bunch of the good brands out there. I mean, I have a stick burner. I also have a pellet grill as well. Mm-hmm. The pellet grill, they're just great for convenience.
Okay.
Because
like why pellets? How did it get to pellets?
I'm not really sure exactly, but Traeger is like they're like the big name in the pellet industry. Yeah. And it's basically like sawdust that they compress into pellets. And they
just creates good smoke, I guess.
It just creates a smoke and a heat. And that's essentially what barbecue is, right?
Yeah.
And they're great in a sense for convenience, because like if I'm testing out stuff, or I'm just busy that day and I want to do a rack of ribs and I can't sit outside for like 5 hours, I'll throw a rack on the Traeger and say like, oh, that new sauce or that new rub tasted really well, right? Or it worked or it didn't, right?
Yeah.
So it's great that way just for convenience, and that's what it is, right? It's a tool. It's convenient, and there's different ways you can use them, right? So, yeah, I mean Traeger's good. There's like Pit Boss or something
Pit
like
Boss.
that. Traeger,
those
Pit
are the
Boss.
two I know.
Yeah, but there's a whole bunch of them out there. Like a lot of the big barbecue manufacturers, they all make pellet grills now.
Yeah,
they're all basically the same. They all have like a hopper and a little firebox, and they're all good. I mean,
probably connects to your phone, I assume. Or
some of them are like crazy. They've connected to your phone. You could be like, in Toronto, and you could monitor your smoker. Like, I don't know. So, but it's fun. It's fun that way. And
what's your favorite thing to barbecue?
The favorite thing I like to barbecue is probably smoked turkey breast.
Oh,
yeah.
I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah.
I was thinking some kind of beef.
No, you know what? Honestly,
or pork ribs.
The brisket is fun, and I like it, and it's really good. But I am honestly like, if and it's like smoked turkey breast. If it's done well, it is the best, like low key, like you don't even understand how good it is.
Really? I don't think I've ever
phenomenal.
had
it is phenomenal. It is so good.
Smoked turkey
breast is so good. It is so good. Like,
what do you do? Is it like a spice rub? What are you doing with it?
So what you do, I mean, you don't even need to do anything. You can literally just like
smoke it,
throw it on the smoker, and what you do is you smoke it up to maybe like 100, because it's poultry, so you want to like cook it up to like maybe like 165 degrees.
Yeah.
Just to make sure that there's no salmonella and stuff in it. But you smoke it up to maybe like 140, and then you take it off the smoker, and then you put it on some foil, and then you put like basically just a giant stick of butter on the top of it, and then you wrap it up, and then you put it back on the smoker until it's up to 165. And so all that butter just like because it's in the foil, it keeps all the juices in there, and then all the butter just melts down into the turkey.
Oh, and it's a lean bird, right?
It's so you're adding fat, and you're adding that fat and that butter flavor combined with like the smoke. And that, it's so good. It is so good.
Shit.
Yeah, I love it.
So next weekend.
Yeah. I don't. Hey, don't tempt me with a good time. Like, I would. Yeah, I love it. It's so good.
Dang.
It is so good.
My personal favorite is brisket.
Yeah, brisket is really good. Like, I do love brisket. It's a real if it's done properly, if it's done well, it is absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah.
The one I also really like is beef cheeks.
Oh, beef cheeks! I love beef cheeks.
Yeah, I call beef cheeks baby briskets.
Like Fernando's beef cheek tacos.
Yeah.
Oh shit.
Yep. And beef cheeks are phenomenal, and they're made up of the same kind of connective tissue that a brisket is. Okay. So if you cook it up and you kind of cook it like a brisket a bit, and then you treat it and process it like a brisket, you can slice it up into like the little pieces, and it's literally like a brisket. It's so good, and it's like it's dirt cheap too compared to a brisket.
Yeah,
where like you go to the store and you're paying like $150 for a brisket now. Like you can go to the butcher and like you can pick up a pack of brisket, like two or three beef cheeks for like not that much.
Yeah, and brisket used to be. It was it was called like the poor man's cut, right?
Yeah, well that's a big thing. Is like barbecue was always like a poor man's food. Like it was always cheap cuts of meat. That like, whether it was like the landowners would give like the slaves, like the cheap cuts of meat that they didn't want, right? The parts of the animal that they didn't want, they would give it to their workers or their whatever, right?
Yeah.
And so that's what it was. It was like cheap cuts of meat, low and slow, and just making it delicious.
Really tough.
Yes.
And that's why you cook it for 2 days.
Yeah. So because brisket is like, because cows don't have like shoulder blades, so they have these big. Their chest is like these big muscles here. So so it's a huge working muscle. That's
where the brisket is.
Yeah, it's right. It's right here because they don't have the shoulder blades like we do.
Yeah.
So they have these massive two muscles on the front of their chest that are huge working muscles, right? So there's a lot of connective tissue and then there's a lot of collagen, and that's what it is. So that's why you need to like either braise it, like that's why like in like Jewish delis they use like corned beef, right? That's like a brisket, because it's like they cure it and then they cook it over a long period. They steam it basically, right?
Yeah.
And that's what it is, right? It's you either like a cuts like briskets, you have to like either smoke it low and slow for a long time or you braise it for long periods of time, and that's what it is. So
because it's whatever muscle's being used the most is going to be tougher.
It's tougher, and there's all that connective tissue, and that's why like you need to cook those things at lower temperatures, because it breaks down all that low temperature over a long period of time, breaks down those connective tissues, breaks down that collagen, and that's why you get that juiciness out of the meat.
That juicy, fatty. Ugh.
Yeah, because a lot of people think like that juice in a brisket is fat, and what it actually is, it's the collagen. It's liquid collagen.
Isn't collagen good?
Yeah.
You?
Oh, it's great.
It's like something to do with your hair and your
it's
skin.
Delicious.
And,
it's all that connective tissue and all the collagen that's broken down, and it's like boom. So, for a brisket, how I generally would cook a brisket is I would cook it. First off, I would cook it at a lower temperature on the smoker when I first put it on. Like I just use for a brisket, I'll use a lot of times. I'll use just salt and pepper, like a coarse salt, a coarse pepper, because it catches the smoke and allows that penetration. And then I'll put it on the smoker, and then when I'm about maybe 7 or 8 hours in, I do a thing. A lot of people will wrap it, but I don't wrap it. I use this method called the foil boat method. And what that is you put the brisket in a piece of foil, and then you wrap it around the bottom of the brisket. And so you leave the top exposed, and then you keep the brisket in the foil. And so what happens is that all that juice and all that fat that renders out, it stays in the foil, and it kind of almost like confits the meat.
Yeah.
So like the flat part, which is the leaner cut, it stays in that meat, all that juice and all that fat, so it stays moist. And it kind of really adds like a really nice flavor, so you don't lose any of the juice.
Okay.
But because you've got the top exposed for the rest of the cook, you get that really nice. You get a really, really nice bark on it.
Oh, because I like my dad's done it a few times. He'll wrap it and then he'll sit it in like a Yeti cooler.
Yeah.
For a while.
Yeah, and so that's the big thing.
You're missing that char.
You're missing a lot of that, and then but you get that really nice that top, like and then what I'll do is when it's done, a lot of it also with barbecue is also feel. So with a rack of ribs, you pick it up and you like, I'll feel it, how it flops. Cause once those connective tissues start breaking down, like, and like a rack of ribs,
really bend, right?
It'll start to flop. Like when you pick a rack of ribs up, just as it's after maybe like an hour on the smoker, it'll be really stiff and it'll be very straight. But after like when it's almost ready to go, like you'll feel it. It just kind of like you'll feel that flop.
Yeah.
Right. And if it's just at that right.
It's like picking a cat up. You ever picked a cat up?
Yeah. Right. Cat or small child, they just kind of flop in your arms.
Yeah.
But it's that feel, right? And so with a brisket, like you get under there and you kind of feel it, and like you'll get that jiggle. And then once it gets to that point of usually that's around about between 203 to 205 degrees. What I'll do then once I get that jiggly kind of jello motion of the brisket, then I'll take it off and I'll let it rest down to about 150 degrees. And then I'll take it and I'll put it in my oven at like 160 degrees and like let it rest at that temperature for like 8 or 12 hours.
Oh, wow.
So, I mean, down in some of the barbecue restaurants, they have like Alto Sham warmers and stuff that they'll put their briskets in there. They'll let them cool down, like just out on a rack, from 205 down to like maybe like 150, and then they'll put them in the Alto Sham warmers, and they'll let them rest for like 12 to 24 hours before they even serve them. So like that. So by doing that, what it does is it, all that juice kind of goes back into the brisket, and also what it does is it. If there's any part of it that's not fully cooked, like, or not like cooked to that level, like it just continues to kind of like soften it up a little bit.
Don't make it consistent all the way through.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So, but that's the real secret and key to like a really, 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 really good brisket is like I will sometimes rest a brisket for like 12 hours after I've cooked it.
Wow.
So, so it's a huge process, right? So it may take like 8 to 10 hours to cook it, and then you're resting it for 12 hours.
For even longer.
Right. Wow. So yeah, that's a huge thing. So it's a lot of it is resting. And that's one thing I always tell people when you're doing barbecue is don't ever, like if you have people coming at like 5 o'clock, like have the stuff done like an hour before.
Yeah,
or 2 hours before. Yeah. Because the worst thing you can ever do is be cooking a brisket and be like, oh, it's a 12-hour cook. And like I start it at this time and it'll be ready when all my friends are come. And then then it's like 5 o'clock and it's only at like 190 degrees. And they're sitting there with their forks and looking at you, and you're like, oh, it's just gonna take like
just 3 to 4 more hours.
Yeah, it's only at 190. We got to get up to like 205, and it's like taking 2 more hours. And I'm like, no. I always tell people, like, if you're gonna do barbecue, you're gonna do ribs, you're gonna do brisket, you're gonna do pulled pork, or whatever you're gonna do, have it done
like that afternoon.
Have it done an hour or 2 or 3 hours before you're ready to go. That way when they show up, it's like in the cooler. It's nice. It's still warm. You don't have to like, you're not stressing out that like, you know, because if you leave that extra play in there, so if the meat takes a little bit longer, you're not freaking out. Like if it takes an extra hour and you have 2 hours before your friends come over, like you're done. So you're done at an hour, instead of 2 hours, you're done at an hour before your friends come. Yeah. That way you're not stressing out and everybody is at the dinner table, like not looking at you like, Drew, why are the ribs aren't ready?
Yeah.
Right. And you're like, it'll just take another 20 minutes. Right. And it's like 3 hours later or whatever. Right. So, but yeah, that's a big thing. And I always tell people also cause some people like really low temperatures for barbecue and like 220 or 230. I always cook at like 270 to 300 because that way it's a quicker cook and it's you get the same result at the end. It's just it's a faster cook and you're not with a pork butt because sometimes if you're cooking at that lower temperature, it just takes forever. It takes forever. And
people think it'll be better if we cook it slower.
Yes. I mean, like anything below 300 is good. Like 275, 280, 290, that's great. But it also depends on like your barbecue and your smoker. Like sometimes you have to cook at a lower temperature just because if you don't, the size of your cook chamber, you'll burn. Yeah. But because a lot of it is, especially with those bigger cuts of meat, like a brisket or like a pork shoulder, like a pork butt, it's all about like your thermal like momentum. So I always describe it as like, imagine if you have a locomotive that's going 25 miles an hour versus one that's going 50 miles an hour, and they're both going up a hill. Like which one is going to get up the hill easier? And because in those bigger cuts of meat, you have something called the stall. So if you're doing a brisket or you're doing a pork butt, what happens is that meat starts to sweat. Like the juices start coming out of the meat. And so just like when right in the summertime, when it's hot out, you start sweating and your sweat evaporates and it cools you down. So what the stall basically is the meat starts to sweat and that water evaporates and it cools the meat down. So at the same time you're trying to cook it, it's also cooling down, right? So that's what the stall is. Oh. So when people talk about the stall in barbecue, we're like, oh, I'm doing a pork butt and I hit the stall, right? And usually it happens around 150 to 160 degrees, sometimes 170. But if you're doing it at a lower temperature, like 225, because you have less, I say like thermal momentum, that stall is just going to be longer.
Right.
Whether if you're doing it 275 or 280,
you're almost going to overpower
you're just going to power right through it. So a lot of times if I'm doing a brisket, like the times I've done briskets where I don't even have a stall. Or the stall is like maybe 45 minutes.
Yeah.
Where if you're doing it at like 225, that stall could be like 2 hours.
Is it called a stall because it's temp going up, and then it just plateaus?
Yeah. So and that's what a lot of first time people who are barbecuing will freak out. And that's one thing I would say with people with barbecue is like, don't panic. Like the meat will be done when it's done.
It's a process.
It's a process.
It'll let you know.
Like don't freak out. Just relax, breathe, like, have a beer, just relax. Like it's a long process because that's what the stall is. You'll get up to about 250, 260, and then all of a sudden
nothing happens.
That first hour or two you're cooking and the temperature's just going up. And then all of a sudden it just stops. And that's the stall. And if you're cooking at a lower temperature, that stall is just going to be longer.
Yeah.
So, instead of like 12 hours, if you're cooking it at a higher temperature, you can do that same cook at like 7 hours.
That's not bad.
Because you have more thermal momentum that you can push through that stall quicker. So that's why I like it at that higher temperature, because I'm like, you don't, like, I've done it at lower temperatures, I've done it at high temperatures, and you don't notice a difference. Like you still get that nice smoky flavor, you still get the nice barbecue thing. It's just, it's done quicker.
Yeah.
And so I don't really cook anything at a lower temperature anymore because there's no real benefit to it. It's just more time. That's all you're doing is more time. And like, I'm so busy now anyway. So like, you just don't have time to do that.
Yeah. To be cooking a brisket for 2 days.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's, and that's a big thing there right now. Like beef prices are so crazy. Like I used to, back in the day, I used to like scoff. I'm like, I'm not paying $80 for like a double A, like a prime brisket. Like, that's ridiculous. But now it's like a prime brisket is like, $180. And I'm like, that's
why?
It's crazy. I don't know. It's just the price of beef now is just ridiculous.
Economics.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, but even in the States, like my sister, like she's like, it's really expensive. Like, what your beef up there is crazy. It's probably
cheaper down there.
It is. It's cheaper down there. Mm-hmm. It is. But like, yeah, here for some reason, like, even like if you go to the Costco Business Center and they've like double A prime briskets there, and they're still,
double the price.
It's still like, it's like $150, $160. And I'm like, wow, that's crazy. That's really expensive.
Yeah.
So, I try to do like, I'll do brisket once in a while, but I'm like, yeah, that's a lot of, and it's a lot of money to do, to just to be like, let's have a brisket. Let's do a brisket this weekend.
Yeah.
Right. And it's just like, just like me, my wife, and my 4-year-old who.
It's not a casual.
Like, yeah. Thing. She's like, I want macaroni and cheese. I'm like, I just spent 12 hours or 24 hours cooking your brisket. And you want
a $5.
You want chicken nuggets. Right. But yeah, so there's just that whole process, but it's fun. And, but I mean, like, yeah, I that's always the funny thing is I love barbecue, and now that I have a business making barbecue, it's like you get so busy sometimes you don't always have the time to do that.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. I want to pivot into that a little bit.
Yeah.
Sort of, because this is your full-time thing now.
Basically, yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah, pretty much.
For the most part.
Yeah.
And it just started off as a COVID project, right?
Yeah, it was just like because it was like, I don't know what to do with myself. And at that point, because my other business was basically shut down, I did a little bit of that the CERB thing.
Yep.
But I was like, you know what, this is going to run out. And I'm like, I've got to do something. So yeah, and Jen kind of at the Bar Antique, who's really nice, great, kind of put that call out, and that's how we did it.
And you had that recipe beforehand.
Oh yeah. So
yeah.
So going back to that, the whole barbecue thing for all those years, like when I first started, there was like craft barbecue sauce at the store, right? And it's just like, I was like, I don't like this at all.
Yeah.
Or like Bullseye or something, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, I don't like this at all.
A1.
Yeah, right. And so that was like that was back in the day of like everything was on like forums and message boards, right? So it was like the barbecue message board, right? And so you'd go on there and be like, hey, how do I make like a decent barbecue sauce? And so like guys would be like, this is like a basic kind of a good recipe, right?
Yeah, here's the base.
Yeah, right. And so then I would try it, and I would like do different things and kind of experiment and all that kind of stuff. And so that's it, and that's how I started doing the barbecue stuff, right? Just like with the sauces and stuff like that, just playing with it. And if I'm doing a rack of ribs or doing a couple ribs on the weekend, like I'll make up a batch of sauce, right? And friends are coming over, I'd make up some sauces and whatever, and try it out. And because that was always the funny thing, is I always joked that people always love your food when it's free. Right. And, but when they have to pay for it, they're like, well, Drew, your cooking is terrible. We just come over here for the company and the free food. Like,
yeah.
So you never really know, right? Because your family and your friends, sometimes they don't want to hurt your feelings. Right. So they're like, yeah, your food, your cooking is really nice, Drew. We really enjoy it.
Yeah.
Right?
It's nice.
It's nice. Yeah. Right. So that was kind of like the big thing, is like, it's kind of, that's why I always tell people, like with like entrepreneurs and like business, like you really have to kind of overcome that fear of rejection, of people saying no, or I don't like this. And cause I just was like, you know what, I'll give it a try. And I gave it to her, and she's like, yeah, this is really good. And her husband just was like putting his fingers in there and just eating it. And he's like, yeah, sell this. So, and that was a whole interesting process, especially during COVID, trying to get the health department to kind of like approve what all you're doing. Because it's a whole process of like, they have to inspect the facilities that you're using, and then especially when you're doing like a sauce, when you're doing food, you have to like have like tests done, and you have to submit your processes and how you're bottling things, because the pH levels have to be proper, have to be right.
Yeah, are the jars sterilized?
Yeah, that kind of thing, right?
Stuff, right?
So you have to go through, you have to submit the whole process and how you do it. They test everything to make sure like your pH levels are okay, because like a big thing for bottling food is like botulism, and you don't want that in your food. And so you have to have, you have to have a certain pH level that, and a certain cooking process that, like you can never really get rid of it. But what you do is you basically sterilize the product so that it doesn't create the environment for botulism to happen. That's why when you're canning, like if you've ever canned,
yeah,
like you have to put it in the pressure, like the hot water bath for like 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And you sterilize that bottle at that temperature so that like with canning tomatoes or whatever, so that because it's a low, because it doesn't have the low enough pH level, you have to sterilize it like that. But when you're doing with like barbecue sauces and you're using a lot of vinegars and stuff in there, like you have to have certain pH levels and things like that. So there's all sorts of processes that you have to do. So like food is like a whole different game if you're starting a business, like with like the folk stuff, like you just buy the shirts and like print them and like that's it, right? But like you don't have to get the health department approval, and like there's all sorts of government agencies that you have to kind of like, if you like bureaucracy and like dealing with government agencies, like get a food business,
make a food
product, right? That's always the fun part of that. But yeah, you'd have to do all that stuff, right? You have to keep records and all the batches and like where you're buying things, and and that's always the challenge, especially of like making a product locally here in like a rural county, is that we just don't have the facilities that you would have in like,
there's not a big manufacturer nearby.
No, you wouldn't, right? There's no co-packers, there's none of that stuff. So, and even like commercial kitchens that you can rent, it's like, it's difficult to find.
Yeah.
So all that kind of stuff. And, so it's just like a process of just like, just knocking on doors and making sauce and like,
where were you making it initially? Just at home?
No. So, cause you have to, everything has to be done in a health department inspected facility.
Yeah. Okay.
Like, you just can't like, make it into your bathtub or something like that. Right. Like
you could try.
You could try, but I mean like you have to do that, right? It has to be inspected by the health department. And then like, there's crazy labeling rules and like, so like if you like, let's say you were making like a, I don't know, like a cocktail flavor or something like that, right? Like if you were just selling it here in Norfolk County, you don't have to put it like French on the labels, or the counties that touch Norfolk County, you don't have to put French on the labels. But if you start selling in like Hamilton, you have to have all your labels have to be bilingual. So there's weird. Yeah. So then you have to have all of the labels in French and English, and then you've got to like, list ingredients and like allergens. And so you've got to figure out like what are allergens and what, so it's just like all sorts of stuff. And there's constantly changing. So like there's been times when I've made labels and you spend a lot of money on making labels.
Oh, yeah.
And then they're like, oh, new allergens come out and and it's one of my ingredients and I have to list it on the label. So now you throw out all those labels.
Thousands of dollars in labels.
And you have to throw them out and you have to have them reprinted, And so it's just like that kind of stuff. And, UPC codes and all this stuff. And it's just like, and then once you start dealing with like, there's like the local health department, then there's like the federal food agencies. And then there's just like,
Yeah. You're not doing anything cross-border yet, are you?
No,
okay,
no.
Just in this,
yeah.
Okay.
So if you want to sell in the States, then you have to like, that's another bag of worms. That's just like, you have to get like FDA approval.
Yeah.
And you have to like, because when you're selling a product in the States, it has to be done at an inspected facility that's approved by the FDA. So if you were going to like sell to the US, like because right now we just rent out a commercial kitchen and we make the sauce there. But if you're doing it that way, then you have to be at a facility where the FDA has health inspectors that approve it. And so then you have to like look at switching over to a co-packer. But then the problem with that is because we use like local products that are approved by the health department here, but they're not necessarily applicable or usable by a co-packer, because a co-packer needs like a certain level of like documentation because the co-packer is liable for if you submit the processing of how you're going to make the sauce to them and they co-pack it for you, they are on the hook for anything that happens that's wrong. Right. So because like, even though you give them the recipe and everything, if they source an ingredient that has like E. coli in it, they're the ones that get in trouble. I don't get in trouble because they're the ones who source the ingredient, and because what a co-packer does is they source all the ingredients, they make the sauce, they bottle it, they label it, they package it up, and then they give it to you. And then you sell that to your customers.
Okay.
So they're the ones who, because they manufacture everything, they're on the hook for all of that.
Yeah.
Right.
Keep going. I'm just gonna plug this camera in.
So yeah. So they're the ones who, so they really want like a traceability in terms of product, in terms of like the ingredients. So that's a huge. There's all sorts of different leaps, especially with food products, that you never would even have to consider with like the folk stuff.
Yeah.
You know,
I'm sorry to interrupt. I need to swap a battery here.
Yeah, no.
Usually what I do is I plug the camera in because it shoots at 4K and it just chews through batteries like nothing. And it died at some point. So I just want to get your pretty face back on there.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll be right back.
Sit tight, everybody. We'll be right back after this message.
Just Drew.
Hey, quick break. It would mean the absolute world to me if you pause this episode right now, went to Spotify, and hit the follow button. Or better yet, you can leave a review or even a 5-star rating if you're feeling good today. And if you're not already, you can follow the podcast on Instagram or subscribe to the YouTube channel, or even if you just want to share an episode with a friend who you think would love it. I would really appreciate it. Any little bit helps the podcast grow and keeps great conversations like these coming your way. And who knows, you might even be on the podcast next. Now, back to the episode.
Oh, I could imagine.
Yeah, because with like there is nothing more terrifying than dealing with health inspectors. They're like that. You're the clown in It, like Pennywise. Like they are just terrifying. Like they just show up and you're like, ugh! Because and they're lovely people, but the problem is like health department, they have the power of seizure.
They can do anything.
They can, like, if you tick them off, like they're like, you're shut down, and then you're done. And they can seize all your product, and they basically, then you have to go to like all of your retailers and say, you have to pull all of our stuff off the shelf. So it's like huge, right? So, you know, it's always difficult. You know, like, I've never had a problem. You know, I've always had a really great relationship with them, but there's always that fear of like, this person has the power to like shut you down,
completely ruin your business,
completely shut you down, and that's it, right? So it's terrifying that way, and
they're important.
Like absolutely,
you need regulation.
Yeah, no, you totally need regulations like that, because otherwise, like especially in the food business, because you want to do stuff. You don't want people to get sick. You want people to enjoy your food. You want people to have a good time. You don't want people to get sick, and you want some mechanism there to make sure that that restaurant or that place is doing things by the book. So like they're not doing
cutting corners
or doing stuff in a bathtub and stuff like that, right? Yeah. Right. Because like there's instances where, like, you know, at the CNE a couple of years ago, where there was like one of the food stalls there, they were not doing proper sanitation and washing their hands, and like thousands of people got sick from E. coli. Oof. Right. So you just want to be careful, right?
Yeah.
And that's also the thing, like when we do events, you have to deal with like all sorts of different health departments around the province. So you have to fill out forms and like tell them all the stuff that you're doing and stuff like that. Now we're a very, very safe food product. So like we don't really have any issues, but the one funny time is we did like the Toronto Food and Drink Fest, which is like right down at the Toronto Convention Center downtown by like the Rogers Center.
Yep.
And, you know, you're thinking like, oh, this is the city of Toronto. Like they're like, you know, they're on the ball, like, you know, and we filled out all the forms, and like nobody ever came. There was no health inspectors at the event. Nobody showed up. And it was gross because there were guys serving food there with like just cups of meat on a table, no warmers, nothing. it was gross. Like, I'm like, I'm not eating that. Like, it's been sitting out here for like 4 hours in a cup. And like, you're not warming the food at all. You're not warming the meat. Like, it was gross. And there were like, some of the vendors were like dropping like utensils on the floor and like just dusting it off on the side of their pants. Oh, no. And like putting it back in the pots and stuff. And I'm like, I am not eating any food here. It was gross. So
that's where they come in handy.
That's where inspectors come in handy, because there are some people who just either they're not thinking about it or they don't care.
Yeah.
And you don't want people to get sick, right?
Yeah.
You know, because that's a whole. Yeah.
You see like those Indian street food videos trending online of.
Yeah. Right. And I'm like, I am
zero
never
regulation.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. I'm like, yeah, nope. It's just like, you know, and it's different. That kind of stuff. I'm like, I'm just.
I saw a video of a guy he was carving meat, but he was holding it with his toes.
Yeah, I'm just like, you know what? I'm not eating that. I'm just sorry.
He's holding it with his feet, and he's he's carving whatever he's carving.
Yeah, I'm adventurous, but I'm like, you know what? I'm not eating that. Sorry. Like, I'll be like the typical tourist where I'm just gonna eat at McDonald's. Like,
yeah,
you know, I appreciate it. I'm just not gonna eat that street food.
I watched some YouTuber, like a white guy from some English country, and he was just eating all sorts of street food. He's like, I've never gotten sick off of street food. I don't know if he has some kind of like unique gut biome, or he's been there for a while, perhaps.
That's just like playing Russian roulette. Oh. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Well, because my wife, she taught for like, I think 8 years in Indonesia. And she was like, yeah, there's some stuff. Like, she's like, you don't, like, it's just like, yeah.
Just someone pulling up with a cart and
he's like,
doing what they think is good. And
it's just like, because some of the standards there are just like not it's just like, no, sorry.
Yeah, or I've been to countries where like there's just meat sitting out.
Yep.
And it's just it's not any kind of particular
there's flies all over it.
Yeah,
and it's just like
flies.
No,
chopping it up.
Yeah, no. So that kind of stuff, right? So,
yeah.
But you just want to be safe with food, and you just want people to have a good time. You want people to enjoy it, and that's a big thing, right? So, and
we got your. Can we talk about your new spice rub?
Yeah. So this one, our other maple coffee spice rub that we make, that one we use Chambers maple syrup in that. And then we also use Altitude Coffee's Colombian roast.
Nice.
So it's a real nice kind of like sweet savory mix on that one.
Yeah.
And that one was really cool because that one kind of came out of a collaboration with Altitude Coffee at Eat Drink Norfolk. And we were just hanging around before the event, and they're like, "Hey, can you do anything with our coffee?" And I was like, "Sure." And so we kind of played around with it for a while, and that's how the rub came about.
Yeah.
And that one has really been well received. Like that one, we won 3rd place at the American Royal down in Kansas City at the World Series of Barbecue.
Nice.
So I think it was about 230 rubs from across North America.
Wow.
And we got 3rd place in the mild category.
Wow.
And that was the first time that was the first year it came out.
Yeah.
And I was like, they released the results, and I like looked on the page, and I'm like, I'm just looking at like, you know, like starting at like number 230, and I'm like moving up, and I'm like up, I don't see us, and I'm like, oh, we're number 3.
Holy
I'm like,
shit.
So that was really cool because that's like this, a lot of the top like barbecue rubs in North America, like those guys, like the Meat Churches and all those big American brands, like they entered this competition, right? And I'm just like some goofball in like Norfolk County
coming down.
I don't know, you know, like, you know, and so that was really cool. So this one, and this year,
can I?
Yeah. So this one. We use apples we get from the Norfolk Fruit Growers Association, and incorporated that in there, and kind of like the Mexican influence here a little bit. So you get that little bit of that sweet, little bit of that sweetness, a little bit of that smokiness, a little bit of that spiciness.
Keep eating this.
Yeah, just sit there and go ahead.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Really nice on pork and chicken. I like that one is like phenomenal on pork and chicken. So good.
So what is you said there's apples in it?
Yeah. So we use apples in there. So we basically like we get the apples freeze dried, and then we just kind of like
look at that.
Yeah.
Just hold it up. Just the color too.
Yeah, so that one.
Look at that.
So if you look at it, you can see like some of the white specks in there, like the apple.
Okay.
That's that freeze dried. So
I wasn't sure if like the sweetness was coming from some of the apples, maybe.
Yeah, some of that is from the apple, and then some of it is like we also use a bit of the brown sugar in there just to kind of like But it's a really nice. It really goes well, and so we're just working on that one right now. Just like getting Eric's doing the labeling on it.
Yeah,
he just sent me over the final proofs on it. So
nice.
So we're just working on like getting all because that's the other thing too is when you're doing that stuff, like you have to build up the inventory, because once you release it, then everybody wants a case.
How do you replace it? Yeah.
So it's like as soon as you make it, then everybody wants it, and then it's just like this constant cycle of like selling and then like restocking and that kind of stuff.
You must be moving a lot of stock if you're in 80 stores.
Yeah, I mean the one thing is that like with barbecue sauces, it's not like something that you're using like every day. I mean, some people do, but some people don't. It's not like a bread or something like that where like you're eating it, you're consuming it every day. So you're constantly going to the store buying more milk, right? Like, so some people might use the barbecue sauce like, a couple times a month, right? So even though you're in 80 stores, like you're constantly moving sauce, but it's like every store is like, there's always like, this month is like these X number of stores and these X number of stores. So it's always like, you always have the ability to kind of like have 80 stores, but it's not like they're buying. I mean, it would be great if they're buying stuff every week, but so it's just you just have to get into that rhythm of understanding that kind of stuff, right? And that's the thing about like with small business stuff. It's like you're just constantly like you have so many hats on. You're the manufacturer, you're the sales rep, you're the customer service, you do the social media. You have so many hats that that you're always just kind of like doing all different stuff, right? So and then also too like the challenges of like just being in a rural county, like because we don't have some of the facilities and like a lot of the glass manufacturers, the glass warehouses, you get, the spice rub jars. A lot of that stuff is like way down in Toronto, right? So you have to run down there because they charge like a ton for shipping, right? So you have to, rather than pay, this fortune in shipping, I just load it up on my truck.
We'll do that before the fair because we buy a shit ton of stock.
Yeah.
It's just cheaper to drive out there with a trailer and load it ourselves.
Yeah, because otherwise they charge you a fortune for shipping, and it's like,
dollars.
It's just crazy, right? So, and all the that kind of stuff, right? And so there's just all those kind of different things. You're just running around doing all that stuff with all that process, but so it's just like. Yeah, it's fun stuff, and that's the thing too. Is like because my other business was like was a medical focus one, right? So now it's kind of like to pivot into like a food-based business. There's a lot of stuff like you learn on the fly, right?
Yeah,
and you do different things where it stretches you and challenges you, right? And that's always the fun thing. I always tell people like, don't be afraid, like just do it. Like like regret is the worst thing ever.
Well, I was talking because I think you have your sauce at Joy Cafe, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So I was in line for coffee the other day, or yesterday actually, and this lady leans in and she's like, "Oh, it's I don't usually do this, but just so you know, I love your podcast." I was like, "Oh my god, no way!" It's like it's pretty. I'm getting bigger, and it's it's been around for a little while now, but it's still pretty rare if I like run into people I don't personally know.
Yeah.
Never met this lady.
Yeah.
Shout out to Tanisha.
There you go.
I was like, "What kind of episodes do you like?" I listen to every single episode. She goes, "I just love how all these entrepreneurs have started all these businesses, and how anyone can start anything."
Yeah.
And so we were just sort of talking about how cool it was, and she was born and raised here and went to the city and came back.
Yeah.
And she's like, I couldn't imagine living anywhere else. It's so cool that all these people are just trying these things and just giving it a shot.
Yeah.
And so we're just sort of talking about how like, pretty much anyone can do anything. Like just give it a shot.
Yeah, just do it.
It's risky. Like it can be risky, and everyone has a certain, you have a kid. Like it's easier for me to maybe start a business because I don't have to support a child yet. There's things like that. But
but I mean, even in that, like a lot of stuff, a lot of businesses, like you'd be surprised how little you need to start.
Just to start.
And
you can expand.
You don't like people think like, oh, I need like $500,000 to start a business. And I'm like, no, like literally, like I started this business with like less than $5,000.
We started the Folk with zero.
Yeah, right. And
we did pre-orders. That's how we sort of got our first.
Yeah, because I mean, and the thing is like when you're working on a small little budget like that. like I had some money in savings, and I was like, you know what, like it's like, not that $5,000 is a little amount, you just
need enough for
but it was just
a
like,
batch.
yeah, like, you know what, it's like Jeff, I always love listening to business guys, like successful people, like, Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk and these guys, because it's always good to kind of like understand, like, this is a person who's had a lot of success. So
what do they do?
Listen to them, right? Listen to this guy, right? And so Jeff Bezos talked a lot about, he's this, at Amazon, they have this philosophy of like two-way doors. Like there's two-way doors and there's one-way doors. And so like a two-way door, especially in business, is like, it's like you can go into that door, and if you don't like it, you just come back out and you just keep going on doing something else, right? So like the example of that would be like, if you do an advertising campaign and it doesn't work, just stop doing it and just try something else, right? Like he talked about, like they launched the idea of Amazon Prime, and everybody thought it was a dumb idea, but he's like, guys, this is a two-way door, because we try it, and if it doesn't work, then we just cancel the project and do something else, right? And he said an example of like a one-way door is like, you spend $500,000 or $1 million on a brand new factory, and it like flops. Like that's something you don't recover from.
Yeah,
like once you've committed to build that $1 million factory, like you can't go back through the door.
Okay.
Like, so he's like, there's those two-way doors and there's one-way doors,
my
right?
studio is a one-way door, but the guests are two-way doors.
Yeah. Right. So
maybe.
Yeah. So if like this barbecue guy is a terrible podcast, you can just like delete it and it never happened. Right.
I'll have another barbecue guy.
That's right.
This is going to be amazing.
But and he said, like, that's the way we think about that.
Yeah.
We think about those kind of decisions in business here. Is this a two-way door or is this a one-way door? Right.
We've had designs for the brand flop.
Yeah.
And then we've had some that we didn't think was going to do well, and it was one of our best sellers. We're like, okay, great, we'll keep it.
Yeah, right. And so, and that would be like an example of like a two-way door, right? Like you try a new shirt design, and if it flops, no big deal. So what? You sell it at a discount at like an event, and there you go, right? So, but like like the one-way street would be like, yeah, you know what? We gotta go big. So let's build a $500,000 plant,
permanent,
and we're gonna spend $50,000 on a new printing machine for shirts, and like it flops, right? Like that's like now you're on the hook for $500,000 business loan, right? So that's the one-way street, right? And it's like, so those kind of decisions, you got to make sure like you're going to make that, you got to be sure about that decision when you make those kind of decisions, right? But yeah, like in business, just kind of do it, right? You'd be surprised how little you actually need to start a business. But sometimes people are so afraid, or they're afraid to take that step.
Yeah, or I'm not that kind of person. I'm not the type of person.
Yeah. And
to do it.
Yeah, and I always talk to people like other vendors at events, because like sometimes we do like markets around the province and stuff like that. And there's that, like we talked earlier about the process of like selling and interacting with people, because it's a muscle that you have to learn. Not everybody has that ability or the ability to talk well with people, but you can develop that. You can work on that, just like working out, right? Like you can work out and get muscles, right? And you don't just start off bench pressing 400 pounds, right? You have to work up to it, right?
Yeah.
And so it's that process of like learning how to speak to people, learning how to sell the product. So like when people come by our booth, I give them like a hook, right? So like people like, oh, what is this, right? So I say, we make barbecue sauces and spice rubs using ingredients from farms in Norfolk County. So that way people automatically know what I'm selling, what makes our products different. What's the angle? And like, and they're like, oh, that's really interesting. Tell me more. And then you can go into depth in the product and stuff like that, right? So that way, so you just have to learn that kind of stuff, like how to talk to people and bring them in. And sometimes you have to do it with like humor as well. Like every once in a while, like if somebody walks by and I'm like, hey, you want to try a sample of our sauces? And they're like, oh no, I don't like barbecue sauce. And then sometimes I'll go like, neither do I. My wife just makes me be here, right? But that's
like, this guy's funny. Maybe I'll
that's
the
result.
More.
But that's the result, right? Or like somebody's wearing like a Toronto Maple Leafs jersey or something, and I'm like, oh, sorry, my condolences, sir.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
And then they laugh, and then like they come over and like that kind of stuff, right? So a lot of it is, and there's also some people that walk by that give you like the death stare. That like don't talk to me.
Don't talk to me.
Don't talk to me. I don't want your product. I'm not interested. You know, like they could walk by and be like, hey, your pants are on fire. And they would just could just keep walking and they would just ignore you. Right. So, but it's just a muscle, right? You have to learn that. Right. And so there's all sorts of different little things that I've learned about, like, you know, like don't have a dark booth. Because if you're selling at an event and don't ever have a dark booth. Always more light is better, because people will not come to a dark booth. So there's all little things like that you learn on the way.
How you're displaying things. The lighting, you know, all that kind of stuff, right? How you talk to people, how you interact with them. Because a lot of times at events, I'll see like vendors who they sit at the back of the booth and they just like sit there and like they're texting on their phone. Yeah. And like they're like, oh, I didn't sell anything today. And I'm like, yeah, well, no wonder. You just sat at the back of your booth. That inviting energy.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
like, you know,
like people can't approach you because you're in the middle of a text message.
Yeah,
so.
Yep. And that's the big thing is I always tell people that like people are not buying my sauce; they're buying my story at first, right? So that's what because anybody can you go to the store and buy a $1.50 bottle of barbecue sauce at the store, right? Yeah. Like, you know,
or you can buy a hoodie anywhere.
You can buy a hoodie anywhere.
What does it represent?
Right. But they're buying like that. They're buying the story behind it, right? Because if you have friends over for dinner and you're like, oh yeah, you know, I get this barbecue sauce from this guy who makes it, you know, gets the ingredients from here in the county, and people are like, oh, that's really cool, right? You don't get that story off like a bottle of Sweet Baby Ray's at the grocery store.
Yeah, you can go listen to his podcast.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, right. So it's just that kind of stuff, right? So initially, people are buying your story; they're not buying your product. Yeah. Right. And so people need to understand that doesn't matter, you know, jewelry or whatever you're making, like you need to have a story behind it.
Well, and also I think it's cool that you're kind of like a pit boss, you know what I mean? Yeah. Not a pit boss, I'm pit master.
Well,
so is that the right term?
Like I mean, like
I know you're not a pit master, but like you could be. I feel like
you understand this stuff, right? So people come up to me and talk to me about that stuff, and
because if you have sort of the skill to back the product that you're, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
goes a long way.
Yeah, and that's also like the funny thing, like you were talking about, like people recognize you on the podcast, like because we also did I've done like 2 seasons of the TV show on Eastlink. Yeah, and it's always weird because
is that with Dean or Graham? Those guys.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, I just drew a blank on his.
That's okay.
Yeah, but yeah, and so you know he kind of approached me at the Eat Drink Norfolk one time, and he interviewed me for one of the shows for Eastlink and that. So now we've done the 2 seasons of that, right? So it's kind of funny to watch people like at the grocery store. They're like, I know this guy. Like people look at you like, do I know you? Like, you know. And I've had people come up to me at events. They're like, oh, I really like the show. It's really cool. So nice. I'm like, you know, that was always weird because that was never on like the bucket list of things. Like I never had ever thought about doing anything like that. Yeah. But, and that's the other thing I say in business is like, just say yes to everything, because you never know where it's going to go. Yeah. Right. You just never know. Yeah. You just say yes. And then you're like, how am I going to do that? Yeah. You know, because you always want to be open to opportunities and things like that. Cause
if you say no, they may not ask again.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the other thing too, is if you're going to a potential store or a customer and they say no, I always view it as not right now. Right. You have to get good with being rejected. Right. And it's nothing personal against you. It's just no. Right. Either your product is not a fit for my store. Yeah. And I've asked that sometimes at stores, like, why did you choose this product over ours? Or why did you choose this product? Right. Not because you want to understand from their side, why that product and not ours. Right. And so by asking the question a certain way, you can instead of just getting a simple no, like, hey, you know, thanks for responding and saying no, but can I follow up that and say, like, why did you choose this product over this one? And then they can give you a critique, like as we were talking earlier about like the social media stuff, like, and then I was like, yeah, you know what, like there's good criticism that you need to understand. Like there's some people that are like, yeah, your product sucks, right? Yeah. But like there's some criticism where you need to, you hear it and you can't be personally offended. You take that and you're like, oh, you know what? That's actually like a really good point. That's a blind spot that I didn't see.
Yeah.
And I need to improve in that.
Or even just if you did get a response like, oh no, this sucks, you'd be like, why?
Yeah.
And then they might tell you, be like, okay, well maybe it's not meant for that type of person or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Taking it personally.
Yeah. You can't take it personally. Yeah. That kind of stuff. It's just because you don't know where they're coming from and you don't know what they're thinking.
Yeah.
I mean, I've had that with store, like, you know, one store, they were just like, yeah, you know, we just like didn't like any of your sauces. And I'm like, okay, like why? Like, can you give me some feedback as to why?
Maybe they just really like really different kinds of sauces.
Yeah.
It could just be them.
Yeah. I mean? And then I was like, because when I was looking at their stuff for the social media and even in their store, they really pushed like a lot of hot sauces.
Okay.
in their barbecue store. So what I kind of deduced by that was like these guys like hot sauces. They like really intense flavors, and so because I make barbecue sauces, so like they're not, it's
sweet
like,
and savory.
It's sweet and savory as opposed to like spicy.
Yeah.
Right. And yeah, so it's just that kind of stuff, right? And okay. You know, even like learning when people want to start a business, like I would say, like understand the market that you're going into, right? So if you like making sourdough bread, that was great when she was baking the sourdough breads here. Because there's bakeries in the area, but there's not a lot of sourdough bread makers, right? And so because you need to, to make sourdough bread, it's like a specific process, right? Oh, yeah. So not every bakery can do that, or they want to put that time into it, right? Mm-hmm. So, but to understand your market.
Hey, there's a gap here.
There's a gap here, and I can fill it with this product. So, because I've had a lot of people come up to me and be like, you know, oh, my grandmother has a really great recipe for hot sauce, and I'm like, oh boy, here we go, like because there's so many hot sauces out there, and it's the market. I tell people like, listen, your grandma has a great hot sauce. There's 800 guys who already have a hot sauce whose grandma had a great recipe, and that's their story. So you know, how can you
what's your angle? What's
your angle? And it's really difficult, right, to break through that market.
Like,
right. I mean, now, hey, maybe if you grow your own peppers and you grow and that's how you can do it, because like peppers and all that stuff are really expensive right now. So like, I don't even know how some of those hot sauce guys make any money, because like fresh peppers are so expensive right now. Like it's crazy how expensive they are. But yeah, like that kind of stuff. You just need to know that niche. Is whatever I'm doing, is there a niche that I can fill? Mm-hmm. And just understand your market, and then just go with it and just try it and see. And, you know, even just like small test things and see how it goes. Yeah. Right. And if nobody buys it, then you're like, oh,
you started off with one sauce,
just
right?
the one sauce, just the one sauce.
And then you kind of expanded from there.
Yeah. So once again, constantly saying yes to everything. Like the berry sweet heat one, like we get the strawberry juice we get from the Judd Strawberry Farm in town.
Nice.
So, and the Sharon Judd approached me and said, hey, you know, we make a strawberry juice. Can you do something with it? And once again, I was like, oh yeah, sure, we can do something with that, right? And then I'm like playing around with it, and then we kind of came up with that, right? Because that one was unique in the sense because there's a lot of hot sauce, like there's a lot of barbecue sauces that use like peach or cherry, but there's not a lot out there that use strawberry juice. Yeah. And so to have that little bit of strawberry flavor in there with a little bit of that heat, a little bit of sweet, it's really unique. And that's one thing that a lot of people have said in like when they've tried it, different stores, they're like, that's really unique. So.
And for those listening, I sort of made like a whiskey sour, but I put his exact barbecue sauce he's talking about in it. It's not bad. I wasn't sure. I was like, I usually wait to make the drinks when you get here. I was like, I'm gonna test this out because you know barbecue sauce in a cocktail with whiskey is like a bit of a stretch. Yeah. So I was like, I should taste this first. Mm-hmm. And it was good, but it was missing something, and then I added like a quarter ounce of maple syrup, and it's just sort of balanced it out. Yeah, I needed a little bit of sweetness.
Yeah. And that's like even the whole process of like making a sauce or making a new rub is like coming up with the concept and then almost like writing like a song. Like you have the lyrics, and then you kind of like work on the chorus and the music, everything else around it, right? Fine tuning it, and just doing that kind of stuff. Because I mean, when I'm like testing up like different rubs and stuff like that, my wife is just like the whole house is just full of like like containers of like batch
like
one,
batch like
1.21, and she just like, can you throw some of these out? Can you throw some of these out? Like a cupboard's just full of it. There's like, where are all my plates gone?
Yeah,
but that kind of stuff. So it's just like it's a process of like just working on that stuff and just having the confidence to know that like my not being arrogant about it, but like my flavor palette is such that I know what's good.
Yeah.
And if I like it, then other people will like it.
Yeah.
Because so oftentimes, like people do stuff with like the end user in mind, like, let's make a shirt that's like, that everyone will like, right? But then like or whatever, right? Like you're
just appeasing to the masses.
You're just appeasing to the masses, right? Whereas you try to make what you like and then have enough confidence to know that what you do is good, so that everyone will like this.
It'll also make it unique too.
It makes it unique, right?
Yeah.
So that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
so
you don't want to just make. I always refer to Wonder Bread.
Yeah, right. Yeah, absolutely, right.
White bread.
Yeah, and that's even why like so many sometimes like movies today are kind of like a lot of them are like bleh, because it's like
they're bland.
They're bland because because there's like a executives in the studio in a big company that be like, how can we make this more commercially viable to like the 18 to 25 demographic?
Yeah.
Right. And so rather than like making a really good movie and then like everyone will go to the movie because it's a good movie, like they're like, how can we get this demographic to like this movie more?
And that's usually the issue when a movie flops. It's not normally the crew, it's the producers.
Yeah.
Just like, no, I think we're gonna pull this whole scene out, and it just changes the entire thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, man. Fantastic. What was the other? Oh, that was the one thing I want to talk about. I don't know if this is accurate, but do you know the history behind barbecue sauce at all? Like where it came from?
I'm not really. I think a lot of it kind of just came out of like that. Once again, like the merging of those different cultures.
Yeah.
And
I heard a story once that, obviously smoking and cooking for flavor takes a very long time. Mm-hmm. And somebody at some point was like, well, what if we just put that flavor into a sauce? You can cook this really fast and then sort of put that flavor back onto it.
Yeah. Like I know that that's one way of like a lot of those sauces did arise from when they would make, because I always say like a barbecue sauce can cover a multitude of sins. So like if you've poorly smoked the meat, you could put like your tomatoey, sweet, sugary sauce on it, and it will cover that bitter creosote flavor. So some of it comes out of that, but some of it just comes out of like, it's another kind of condiment, right? And some of it is just like out of, people are like, what I got kind of like with buffalo wings, right? Like just kind of came out of the Anchor bar. Like her kids came late one night after a night out, and they're like, all the ovens were shut off. The only thing that was open was the fryer, and it was like, what we want something to eat, and just throwing nothing else. So let's just throw chicken wings in the hot sauce in the fryer and throw some hot sauce on them, right? And so a lot of that stuff is just kind of coming out of improvisation.
Yeah.
And just kind of like, again, melding those things together in different cultures.
Because I'm sure there's some traditionalists that are like, no, I only use rub, no sauce.
Yeah.
I've run into a few of those people.
Yeah. So like down in Texas, they're huge on like, it's just salt and pepper.
Yeah.
And like,
don't taint the meat.
Yeah. So like down there, they'll put a little bit of sauce on it, but they won't like, it won't be like just, the ribs are not just dripping with barbecue sauce.
That's what I like.
Yeah. Right. So,
yeah.
so it's because they want the flavor of the meat and the smoke and the wood smoke to kind of come out. And so the sauce is kind of on the side. It's like almost like a dipping sauce.
Yeah.
So
complementary, not the focus.
Yeah. So whereas Kansas City is just like the ribs there are just covered in sauce,
which is my kind of barbecue.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm just like a saucy guy.
Yep.
Yeah,
no, and that's
like.
that's the big thing, right? So it's just all that kind of different stuff. It's just that it just comes out of you just guys playing with stuff.
Yeah.
And because I mean, again, like barbecue was just like it was like a poor man's food. It was a common man's food, right? So they were just basically like, kind of almost like the best kind of cooking always comes out of like the poor man. Like, like Italian food, what makes Italian food great is a lot of those dishes they come out of poor people.
They had no choice.
They
just had to find a creative way.
Like bruschetta, right? Like bruschetta, it was basically like you have a bunch of poor people in a village and all they have is like stale bread, tomatoes, onions, and some garlic and some olive oil. And with a little bit of cheese, like Parmesan cheese. And they're like, what am I going to do with this? And you throw it together and you're like, and this is delicious.
Yeah.
Right. So a lot of those really great foods kind of are born out of the poor man's food. Right. And because it's like you have these basic ingredients, and that's kind of what makes barbecue so great is like the simplicity, but also like in that simplicity, there's great complexity. And it's basically just meat, wood, fire, and smoke.
Yeah.
Right. And with a little bit of some spices and seasonings, and like that's it. Right. That's basically it. So it's just like that.
Sounds like a restaurant idea. Meat, fire. What did you say? Meat, fire,
wood, and smoke. Right.
Wood and smoke.
Yeah. Yeah. No. I mean, yeah. So those are always the things, right? So you know,
it's barbecue is one of my favorite cuisines. And did you ever make it to the front porch when it was around?
I wanted to get out there. I just never. I really wanted to get out there because I knew the owner.
Yeah.
Just from like a great guy.
Because he used to have the Salt Lick. Because I'm from Hamilton. So
Yep.
Yeah, I knew of the Salt Lick. But they lived here and would travel to Hamilton.
Yeah.
And then eventually they were just like, why don't we just open a spot where we live?
Yeah, absolutely, right? So
amazing.
Yeah.
When I first moved in, it was around for a bit, and obviously not now. But if it was still there, I would be going there immediately after this podcast.
All the time, right? Yeah, no. And it's great because, and that was always the thing, like in the South, like the barbecue joint is like the meeting place of everyone. Like you could at one table, you could have a bunch of construction workers, and the other table, you could have a bunch of like lawyers and that, right? But they all meet at the barbecue restaurant, and they're all sitting in there having some ribs for lunch, right? So it's just like this great kind of like equalizer in terms of food, right? Like, so yeah, I mean now it's some of the stuff, like some of the barbecue stuff, like the trends are just like silly and that kind of stuff.
I just like like if I'm gonna go, or especially if you go to a proper barbecue joint, they give you that tray and a bunch of. I always get the brisket, you know, mac and cheese, hush puppies, you know, whatever, biscuits.
Well, and that's the big thing is like barbecue is always evolving, right?
Yeah.
Because back like 40 or 50 years ago, like when you talked about like brisket, right? If you like now, like they cut the briskets in those big slabs and stuff, right? Where that was unheard of. Yeah. Like 40 or 50 years ago, it was all chopped beef sandwiches. Like that's how you got brisket, was in a chopped beef sandwich. Like if you said like, can you cut the brisket up into slices? They would have been like, what are you talking about? Why? Right. So a lot of that stuff is like kind of like the new craft barbecue.
Okay.
Like those big slabs of like they take a brisket and you see those like on Instagram, those like super photogenic plates of like all the brisket sliced so perfectly and like the sausage sliced perfectly and all the ribs and all this stuff, and it's just like like that's all like the craft barbecue kind of stemmed out of Texas with like Aaron Franklin and some of those guys out of Austin, Texas kind of area. So that's where kind of that stemmed out of. But I feel like there are so many, that's kind of like the predominant style right now, but there's so many different cool styles of barbecue around in the southern states that, you know, it's just there's so many just in terms of different cultural influences down there that it's just so cool, all the different styles.
I went to one in Florida once.
Yeah,
sort of near Orlando, outside of Orlando a bit, and it was just like family run. Like if you know about it, you know about it.
Yeah,
and so
Yeah, a lot of them are like that, where it's just small mom and pop restaurants.
Yeah.
And, like some of the ones, like down in Central Texas, the barbecue down there was always just on the weekends. So there's some barbecue restaurants like Snow's Barbecue they only open on Saturday because that's it. Because barbecue kind of instituted down there was it was out of the butcher stores, the meat that they couldn't sell the week before, they would smoke it and turn it into sausages.
Oh, okay.
So when everybody came into town to buy their groceries for the week, they would stop off at the butcher who would smoke the meat that he couldn't sell the week before. Because smoking meat was always a preservation method as well, right?
Yeah.
So they would smoke the meat that they couldn't sell the week before. They would smoke it, or they would turn it into sausages. And so that's why like a lot of the barbecue restaurants down especially in Texas for a long time were only open on the weekends.
Oh, I kind of like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Snow's is cool because they open at like 8 a.m.
Yeah.
And they're basically, once they're done, they sell out.
They're done.
So people line up at like 8 a.m. for like brisket.
Have you been?
I have never been, but I would love to go one day, but it's just, once again, it's just like time and all that stuff. Like, a couple of years ago, we went over to my kind of like we were talking about, like with Marie and Fernando, right? Like my wife in high school, she went over to Belgium for a year and as an exchange student, and their family, my wife's family, they brought Maria up to Norfolk County because my wife was away in Belgium for the year. So they invited an exchange student to came up here, and so Maria loved Norfolk County and loved my in-laws and her family so much that when they were going to immigrate to Canada, all of her friends were like, "Are you going to go to like Toronto? Or are you going to go to Vancouver?" And they're like, "No, I'm going to go to Norfolk County with my family."
That was my question. I was like, "You could have went anywhere."
Yeah, that's how they came to Norfolk County. So you're welcome, Norfolk County. You're welcome. The Bertrands, that's why you have tacos and tequila.
Hell yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But like, it's great. And like Marie and Fernando, like they call my mother and my father-in-law like mom and dad.
Oh my gosh.
And like when they first came up, they moved in with them, and they were like, they live with them. Their kids call like my in-laws, they call them a grandma and grandpa.
Yeah.
And it's great. So,
that's wild.
Yeah, it's kind of like the strange world, right? Of like that kind of stuff. Right?
Yeah, you
so
mentioned
really
that.
Cool.
I was like, I remember talking to him about that.
Yeah.
And he gave me the whole explanation about why they're here.
Yeah, because she went to SES for a year.
Yeah.
And she loved it.
Yeah.
And she loved Norfolk County. She loved the whole
your
thing.
in-laws.
My in-laws came up here. So that was why it's why they ended up here.
Yeah.
So it's really cool.
Such a cool community here for sure.
Right. And all that kind of stuff. But so she went to Belgium for the year. And she loved that family as well. And so like she calls them like my Belgian parents.
Yeah.
So we went over there a couple years ago, and during just at the tail end of COVID, when some of the restrictions were lifted, we went over there, and it was really cool because they live in the Ypres. I always pronounce it wrong.
Okay. I'm not super familiar with Belgium, but
yeah, they call it Ypres.
Okay.
But during World War I, that was where the big battles were.
Yeah.
Like Passchendaele and the Battle of Ypres.
Okay.
And all that stuff were around the city there, or the town. And so that was a really cool experience to go there and see all the war memorials.
Yeah.
And like tying caught the cemeteries and stuff.
Yeah. A lot of history there.
It was. And like in the Ypres, they have like, the city is an old medieval walled city. So there's like the moats around it still, and there's like the gates.
Oh, really?
That you go through, and there's like the Menin Gate, which is like they have all the names of all the World War I veterans who died.
Yeah.
And like every night, the fire department there does the last post, and they do it every night to commemorate the soldiers who died during the First World War. Wow. It was a really cool thing because at St. Julien, I think it's called, there's like a Canadian memorial there. It's a famous one. It's called the Brooding Soldier, if you look it up. And the Canadians were involved in the first gas attack of World War I.
Oh, really? the
So the Canadians the Germans first released the gas attack on the Canadian soldiers.
Yeah.
And so this is the memorial, this statue memorializes the first gas attack of World War I, and it was the Canadians. And it was a really cool experience, but it was also very like humbling in a sense of like to see just rows and rows and rows of the graves of these Canadian soldiers who like just were so brave and just fought at all these different battles. Mm-hmm. And it was truly amazing. Like it was like, I always say, like, it was the first time, like when you say like you're proud to be a Canadian, like it's kind of off in the ether. Like, what does that actually mean? But when you go to like a place like that and you see that memorial there, and it's like Canadian soldiers bravely fought and died doing this, like it was like, honestly, it was like the first time I really understood what it was to be proud of your country.
Yeah, and the impact your country's having that far away.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And so it was a really cool experience. And like I'm not afraid to admit that I got a little bit teary-eyed when I was there, because it was like, like just like the whole experience of that, and seeing all these like the graves of these 18-year-old kids who came over there and fought and died.
I saw a picture the other day, and it was a picture of a map of Toronto.
Yeah.
And it had red dots all over it.
Yeah.
And it said these are all of the sons or whatever that died during World War II. And it just puts it into perspective, like on a neighborhood to neighborhood level, how many people died. Like just all over.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And there, like, because the battlefront went right by the city. So like they have all these like these markers where this was the Allied trench and this was where the German trench was. And like, you see how close it was. In some places it was like 100 feet. Sometimes it was 50 feet away from each other.
And they're just
running up,
pop shots
right?
at each other.
But then also you just realize the whole futility of the whole thing, because like the whole war, they fought, and like thousands, tens of thousands of guys died to move the lines like 5 feet. Like, it was like complete, just utter waste of life. It was so like in one sense you were so proud of what they did, but then also since you were also like so
for what
so upset that they died for nothing.
Yeah,
like
land.
They died for 5 feet of land.
Yeah, right.
And but it was really cool there because like there were so many of the different memorials, and it was all the neat experience was we also went to like Landmark, where there was a German, because you always see like the Allied grave sites there, where there's like the white tombstones and all that stuff, right? And the Allied the Commonwealth grave sites are all like bright and airy and stuff like that, and the German one was very dark. And they had like these like oak trees that were over the grave sites, and it was very dark and it was very gloomy. But Landmark is a very kind of a surreal spot, because it's a very famous rallying cry for during the Germans during World War I, and it's one of the few places where like you can actually still stand where Hitler stood.
Oh fuck!
Because the entry, if you look on Google, like you look up the Landmark Cemetery, like he made this very famous speech at the entrance to it. It's like this big, these big granite columns and stuff, and there's a gate that goes into the cemetery, and he stood there at the entrance and he gave this speech, and it's one of the few spots where you can stand right there and be like, the level of evil that stood right here at one point, and it's still there, and it was a very surreal, bizarre kind of like, you know what I mean? Like to be in that spot and be like, how the level of evil that stood here once, and it's still here.
I've been to a concentration camp before.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
It's just
I
that evil.
Dachau, yeah. It's like you can feel it.
Yeah.
And I'm not that kind of overly spiritual person, but you walk into a space like that, and you can sense something. Yeah, it's very strange.
Yeah, but it was really creepy though.
Did you stand where he? Did you try to like?
I did. I stood there. It was really, but it was really weird. Like it was like because you see the photograph and you stand there and you're like,
it's identical.
Oh wow, this is really creepy, because like, and there's so many spots like that that has been erased from like Germany and other places, but it's still there because it's a gravesite, right? Like they can't destroy it, they can't get rid of it, but it's still there, right? And it's just like this really surreal moment because they had nothing to really like the Germans in World War I. They had nothing to glamorize because they lost, right? So their grave sites are very dark and gloomy and foreboding, and their graves, whereas the Allied ones are all like individuals, like they just grabbed all the Germans and like dumped them in a hole. And they said like there's 15 German soldiers and these are their names in this spot. And then like the next hole is like there's another 15 Germans and that. So it was a really different just to see, because we never see that right here. We only see like the Allied grave sites over there. So it was really kind of neat to see that the two sides and how they treated the dead.
Yeah. Well, I read a book that it was from the perspective of a German during World War II.
Yeah.
And he survived the whole thing.
Yeah.
And it's interesting to just see it. Because what's that saying? They always say like history's written by the
victors. Yeah.
So you never see that side of the story.
But it's a really cool area, and it's like if you like history and that kind of stuff.
I love history.
Cause we went to the exact site where like the John McCrae did like in Flanders Fields.
Okay.
Like because he was like a doctor or a nurse or something like that. And like he wrote like the bunkers where he worked, they actually have like a little plaque where like in Flanders Fields, this is where he did the poem.
Yeah.
And so it's really cool. Like there's poppies everywhere.
Wow.
Like just growing wild everywhere there.
Wow.
But like Belgium was really cool just because there's so much beer there. Like it was just so turning topics, but it was just like, it was great. Like the food there is like phenomenal.
Did they not invent French fries as well? Even though they're
I
called
think they
French
did.
fries?
I think they did, but the waffles and fries and beer.
Fuck with a waffle, man.
And the weirdest thing was we went there and like it's because it's all flat there, so it's in Flanders, so it's all flat and it's a huge bike riding culture. And we went to the city called Ghent. And I kid you not, like in the train station there's the bike. There's 10,000 bikes. I've never seen that many bikes in my life.
I've been to Amsterdam. It's because
everybody
know how you find your bike.
Yeah, because like there was these bike racks,
tens of thousands
of bikes.
How do you know where your bike is?
Yeah, and it was just like they have bike lanes everywhere, and everybody bikes everywhere, and it was like crazy because I ate like beer and all these sweetbreads and all this stuff, and I lost like 20 pounds.
Really?
Because it was like
good. You're just walking,
everywhere, all over the place. Because all the towns there were all like medieval cities and medieval towns, right? So it's all like close in, and you're just walk everywhere, and like there's bakeries like just so like cool. Like a block away from your house. So you just go there in the morning and get like a loaf of bread every day.
Yeah.
Right?
I backpacked Europe, but I never went to Belgium.
Yeah. It's a really cool spot. Yeah. It's really neat. And they love beer, right? So
they love beer, and it's kind of like a collab, right? Because there's different languages. They speak French.
Yeah, they speak French and like Dutch and they like have their Flemish.
Yeah, Flemish. That's the one.
So it's just like there's all these different mixes there. So it was really cool though. Like, because even I think like Muse, the brewery, like Stella Mishka, like he went there to like learn
that style
of Belgian beer.
Yeah.
Because like that's where they get the name from, because like there's two rivers that converge into like the Muse or something.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So it's something like that. Don't quote me on that. Yeah. But it's something like that.
He sort of got it from that.
Yeah.
From that,
so, but it's really cool. Like, and they have like 12% alcohol beers there, and it's like 500 ml bottles.
Because I think anything above 10 here, you have to consider it as like a malt liquor, right?
Like I think it was one of them was like Saint Bernardus. And it was like 12% alcohol.
Pretty much drinking wine.
Oh my goodness! It was like because you visit everybody's house and they always give you beer.
Yeah.
And I went to visit this one guy, and he was like, they were like, no, don't. They were speaking in Flemish, and they're like, no, don't give him this beer, like and it was like, why? And he's like, well, because you're a greenhorn, basically. Like if you were lived here for a couple of years, you could have this one, but like because you're like you could have like the 8% one, but not the 12%, because that would just be like And I had a couple of them, and I was like, I slept on the ride home in the car.
Oh my! Just did you in?
It just did me in. Like I was just like like it just put me to sleep, because I fell asleep in the car on the way home, because it was just like because you visit everybody's house and they just give you beer, and it's everywhere you go.
I need to go there.
And yeah, and it's just like fried food, it fried everything, and it's just like I lost 20 pounds. It was like weird. It was
That's wild.
like the Belgian diet of like beer, fried food, and like cheese and bread.
Yeah.
And yeah, and walking everywhere.
Yeah.
So, but it was pretty cool. And like whenever you go to a cafe there, you ever order a coffee, you get a biscuit.
Oh yeah, very
right?
European.
Very
thing.
European thing, right?
Espresso, you always
Or
get the biscotti in Italy.
Yeah,
and,
right. Or if you order a beer, like there's some of the places where they would give you like a sombrero of cheese around the beer. So like it was this little thing that sat on the top of the beer, on the neck of the beer.
Yeah.
And they give you like these little square bricks of cheese inside the. So you're always drinking. You're not just drinking a beer. You're drinking it with a little bit of cheese or a little bit of, some cured meats and some cheese.
Oh, I like
so
that.
it was really cool. Everywhere we went, it was
I
like
like
that.
that.
So I joked it was like a sombrero of cheese.
Yeah.
It was just like, yeah. So it was really fun.
Super cool, man.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, before we wrap up, anything you want to touch on that we haven't?
I don't know. I think we've talked over a fair broad spectrum of
yeah,
things.
man.
But yeah, that's
I also
fun.
I obviously knew you barbecue, but I didn't know the extent of your knowledge. That was
yeah.
I learned a lot.
Yeah, I know. We've been like booth buddies a couple times at like different events.
Yeah.
So
yeah, more than one occasion.
Yeah. So it's always fun. It's always fun, right? So
that's great, man. Well, I appreciate you taking the time.
Yeah, no problem.
Come on and
absolutely.
You have a new spice rub. It's not out yet.
It's not out yet. So I don't know whenever this probably. Whenever it's
a few weeks from now.
A few weeks, yeah. So I'm looking at doing something with the Apple place where we'll do like a launch there.
Okay.
And so I just kind of like coordinating times, right? So I mean, because right now we're just so busy with like getting sauces and rubs out to like stores, and then also doing a bunch of the Christmas markets around and stuff like that. So it's just like,
where do people buy your products that are out?
So basically, if you're in Norfolk County, I always joke like, if you pretty much go into any store in Norfolk County, you say, I'm looking for Norfolk Barbecue, it's like on that shelf over there. So like we're at all the major butcher stores in the area, like Townsend Butcher, VG's, DeConning's, all over the place. And not to go on another tangent, but like I always tell people people don't understand how blessed we are to live in this county. We have like 5 or 6 butcher stores that are literally better than like, there's cities in Toronto or like some of the suburbs in Toronto that don't have 5 good butcher stores like we do.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm like, we are so lucky to have all the produce and the vegetables and the meat and everything that we have in this county, and all the butcher stores that we have here, like Vanessa Meats, VG Meats, Townsend Butcher, DeConning's, over in Cayuga, there's Smelters, there's up off Indian Line Road that you've got Giles Meats, there's just so many great stores, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, we're in Dover at the Dover Cheese Shop. Jenny is great. The Dover Cheese Shop is awesome. Like,
we were talking about her last podcast.
Yeah. She is a huge, I love Jenny. Like they are huge supporters of local.
Yeah.
And she was one of the first places that actually reached out to us and said like, hey, we want to carry your sauce.
Nice.
Right. And so there and like the Apple place, Wholesome Pickens,
Cider Keg, even
yep.
Joy's Coffee. I was getting
Joy's
coffee.
Cafe. We're in there. Yeah. So all over the place. Like,
nice.
And we are on our website. I think we have all of our retailers on our website. So
yeah,
if you want to go out and give it a try, and and then we're also all of our social media. We're always posting like we're at events and doing tastings and stuff like that at customers. So
what's your next event? Do you know?
This weekend we're going out to the Handmade Market in Niagara.
Okay.
It's a huge, like a artisan vendor kind of market down at the Niagara Convention Center.
Yeah.
Really cool. Like, they do one in the spring, and they do one at the 13th Street Winery down in St. Catharines.
Yeah.
In the spring market, and then there's a Christmas market there that really good, just crazy busy.
Nice.
It's at downtown in Niagara Falls, and then we're at another event in London after that, and then we're at the Dickens Craft Show here in the beginning of December. So
cool.
Yeah, we're all over.
And what's your social media handles and stuff?
Instagram, Facebook. Just look up Norfolk Barbecue.
Norfolk Barbecue.
Yeah, and we're on the TikTok now. So
nice.
I'm TikToking.
Yeah.
Maybe one day you'll see me doing a weird dance with a rack of ribs in my hand or something. I don't know, but just that kind of stuff. But yeah, I mean, you just basically search up like Norfolk Barbecue on pretty much any of the social media stuff. The only thing I don't do a lot of is like on X or Twitter, because I don't either. You only have so much time. And you just can't.
There's so many platforms.
You could just spend hours just posting on social media, and like you have to prioritize that stuff. But I mean, we're on there as well, so I mean, you could follow us on there as well. I mean, not that we post anything, but
nice.
Yeah,
good stuff, man.
Yeah, awesome.
All right,
yeah,
well,
it was super
everybody,
fun.
Check out Norfolk Barbecue Sauce. And,
there we go.
Say hi to Chad when you see him.
Absolutely.
All right.
Yeah.
Have a good one.
Alrighty. Later, everyone.
Later.
Hey you, you're listening to Just Drew, Just Drew, Just Drew.